welcome back to Friends and Neighbors. Sorry, we're over here chatting that I got all distracted a little bit, but welcome to Friends and Neighbors.
Yes.
I'm here with Sherry Tatum, fabulous co-host, and I am Sandra O'Neill. And we are talking today to a special guest. And have you ever been hungry? Have you ever been exhausted and tired? You know, I'm really excited to introduce you to Sue Becker. She is part of the Real Bread outreach ministry that started recently, but more importantly, she's a gifted speaker and she's a gifted teacher and an author, and she uses her platform to be able to educate and speak to people about the benefits of grain nutrition and baking with freshly milled flour. And I believe she's been doing this since 1992. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah. You know, I've heard so much. I've actually been wanting to eat more healthy and try to make my own bread, and you know, but every time I think about everything that has to get done, I get a little overwhelmed. Just a tad. I don't know, have you?
Yes, I certainly have, because my friend does this.
Yeah,
she makes her bread. That Sue has the machine and
everything that goes into it.
Yes.
So I would love for you to just share with us a little bit about how God gave you this vision to start this and share and educate.
Gosh, it was amazing. I've always been interested in the body. In fact, I graduated from University of Georgia with a food science degree. Went as a pre-med major and realized I didn't want to be in college that long. But so I love the body, how it works, and always came at everything from the premise that if something wasn't going right in the body, then we were missing nutrients, because I'd studied the biochemistry of all that. Well, in 1990, so I had young children, fed my family fairly healthy, but in 1991, I was introduced to a healthy eating, living concept that radically changed my life. The information that I came onto was about milling your own flour. The history of white flour was presented in this information, and then a short discussion of the common diseases that plague most of America, and showed how it was directly related to our consumption of this processed flour and white bread, and even what's in the store, whole grain bread, it's not healthy. And it was like lights went off. It all made perfect sense. I knew the information here was true because I knew how the human body worked. And so I purchased a grain mill and began to grind my own grain and make my own bread, and saw the health of our family change drastically. And immediately I noticed health benefits.
But how is your bread different, Sue?
The bread, okay, so there's a couple of entities here. We have a business called the Bread Beckers, where we teach you how to make bread for yourself. We sell grain mills, we sell grain, and I do cooking classes. I just did a cooking class yesterday. I got one coming up this Saturday. And so we teach people how to do it themselves. And we started that business, the Bread Beckers, in 1992 because we saw the health of our family change so drastically. I began to share bread with other people. They noticed the health benefits. The next thing I know, people were saying, teach me about this bread. How can I do this? And so that's how Bread Beckers was born. And so that was 1992 in our little home with our 5 young children at the time. Went on to have number 6 and 7. And I know it seems like I'm digressing a little bit here. But, well, now I have 9. We adopted 2. Yeah. So anyway, well, then the more I studied, the more I realized this was the answer. This is the first step of any basic healthy eating concept. And then the next thing I know, people were coming to me saying, my cholesterol dropped 85 points in a month, and all I changed was to the bread. My blood sugar's regulated. My constipation's gone. My irritable bowel has been corrected. You know, all these things. My weight, I've lost weight. My children are healthy. And for me, these were very significant things that happened in the first weeks or months. And so then in 2005, the more I went out and taught, I realized, you know, there's some people that just aren't ever going to do this. And so my children bought this bakery, the Real Bread Company. The difference in this bread and the bread you're going to buy in the store, any bread, you're going to see there's only like 6 ingredients. And that was baked yesterday, and it was wheat yesterday. My son grinds the flour the day he makes the bread.
That's
and
good.
It's, you know, because from that original information that I read, which I'm not sure why I never put those pieces to the puzzle together before, being a food science major and the way the body works, but I learned that grains are the most nutrient-dense food God has given us, but once, and they're storable, left whole and intact, they're nutritious forever, and they're storable as long as you keep them dry. And but once that flour is milled, the nutritional value and the shelf life of that flour begins to deteriorate very quickly, and you actually lose nutrients.
Okay, but now what about gluten-free?
Gluten-free is a fad.
It's a fad.
It's a very big
have to
fad,
agree.
and it's based on some false premises. What people don't realize is prior to the 1900s, most of the bread baked in this country was baked at home. People had the capacity to mill their own flour, or communities were built up around the local miller, the big stone mills that, you know, milled the flour fresh, and you went and bought it, you know, and you were using it because you were baking all your own bread at home. But in the early 1900s, it was discovered if we sift the very nutrient-rich bran away, which is the outer layers of the seed, the oil-laden germ away, which is the interior part, the life of the seed, that's where the plant comes from. If we sift that away, and just leave just the white flour, that basically, technically, is protein and starch. That's all it is.
All it is,
okay?
yes.
So in the 1900s, they discovered if we sift all that away, this flour won't spoil like the whole grain flour does.
Yeah.
And so it led to the invention of these steel rolling mills that would sift the bran and germ away, producing massive volumes of this long-lasting, never spoil white flour. And by 1910 to 1920, for the first time, this is what people don't realize, in the history of mankind, white flour, white bread became food for the masses. Everybody now had it available. It used to be only reserved for the rich that had, you know, bakers that baked their bread for them that would sift the bran and germ out to make fluffier bread. 3 diseases became epidemic. They traced the problem to the B vitamins and iron being sifted out of the bread, out of the flour.
What about that? The additives, though, isn't that a part of it? Of this
and now it goes
gluten
through a chlorine product to bleach the flour. Benzoyl peroxide is also used and exposed to the flour. It's bromated a lot of times. So there's a lot done even to whole grain flour that people don't realize. But when you sift the bran and germ away, you're basically left with protein and starch. The protein component in your wheat varieties of grain forms something called gluten when it gets wet. Okay, grains don't technically have gluten. Gluten's this stretchy substance that forms when you wet those particular types of proteins that are found predominantly in the wheat variety of grains. And that is something that's very needed to make yeast bread. Because that's what enables the bread to rise, is those stretchy strands of protein called gluten. Well, here's the thing. For 100 years now, we've been eating pure gluten and starch.
Yes.
Okay? That's the problem. That's the problem. And then even in the whole grain flours, breads, and products that you buy in the store, if you read that label, the 3rd or 4th ingredient is gluten. They're adding even more gluten to what is occurring there naturally.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many people in the last couple of years come up to us at, my son does farmers markets, we do speaking and teaching engagements, and they're, I can't eat gluten, I can't eat gluten. They eat this bread and they're fine.
They're fine.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, because it's the
a whole
naturally
food,
occurring proteins
isn't
that are
it?
there.
Like a whole food. Could I ask you then, why do you use honey?
Honey is the only truly unprocessed sweetener that we have. And there's a lot of great, alternative sweeteners, but they still have to go through a heating or an extracting, process. Honey is just made for us by the bees. God has given it to us.
Yes.
Proverbs tell us to eat honey because it's good. And it even says pleasant words are like honeycomb, healing to the body.
And it's so interesting how, the convenience out there for the masses has caused us all these negative problems. So you had mentioned that once you started using, giving your family this bread, you saw that a lot of their ailments were disappearing. What kind of ailments were you
in the first day for me? I mean, I brought this meal in. I cook, so I made a loaf of bread, couldn't wait for it to get out of the oven, ate that bread. The next day, my bowel elimination issues resolved. I had struggled with constipation, and I know that's a funny thing to talk about, but America's the most constipated nation in the world. Supposedly,
yes.
not sure how they found that out, but anyway, but anyway, so that was gone. I've never struggled with it again. 26 years now I've been milling grain. I began to notice I had more energy with 5 young children, homeschooling. You notice that. My dependence on antihistamines. I lived on antihistamines, went totally away. I haven't had one in 26 years.
Awesome.
My frequent headaches went away. I used to have migraines, and I can't tell you the last time I had a headache. I began to notice that my children were just healthier. Their chronic snotty noses disappeared, their ear infection, they seemed to catch every bug that went around and came around or whatever. All that went away. And in fact, in 20 years of their growing up years, because like I said, I went on to have 7 children, biological children, they needed a doctor visit only 3 times in 20 years. And my 2 youngest children were conceived and born after we started milling our own bread and making, milling our own grain and making our own bread. They've never, and they're 25 and 21 now, they've never had an antihistamine a day in their life.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That's enough right there to go, what?
Yes, absolutely.
And then people started sharing with me their cholesterol would drop, their weight. I began to notice that we were satisfied. Jesus compared himself to bread, and he said, I am the real bread of life. He who comes to me shall be satisfied.
Right.
We began to notice we weren't hungry. My kids weren't snacking. We'd eat breakfast, and that'd be it until lunch, and then we'd eat lunch, and that'd be it until dinner. And they even began to remark that how much people eat, and snack, and their friends. They're always eating. We're just not hungry. And so these were things that we just noticed. My sugar cravings disappeared. People are craving sugar because your body needs these carbohydrates to produce energy. And so Americans are walking around from one sugar fix to the next because they need them for energy, but it's just dropping them too low.
I think that's really interesting how you intertwine your testimony of healing as also with what God has gifted you to do. Because a lot of people, I'll tell you this, I'm one of those people baking, why can't I follow instructions? It's really not that hard. I love to cook, but every time I try to bake, something happens. And I'm like, why is it?
Well, we make it simple for you.
I'm excited to talk to you more about that. We have, we're going to go on a break here in a second, but I want to hear more about the steps we're going to take, and y'all come back. You do not want to miss this. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I want to talk about your different breads, too.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And welcome back to the show. It has been such a delight being able to get to know a little bit more about the process of making our own grain, bread out of whole grain. So I wanted to just ask you real quickly, can you walk us through the process? A layman person like me that can barely follow baking instructions.
I tell everybody, this is grinding your own flour. In fact, I got to tell you a little bit of a story, and I'll try to be brief, but when I first would tell people I grind my own flour and make my own bread, they would look at me and they go, I kid you not, this happened multiple times, where do you live? And I'm like, what does that have?
Do you have the resources
I think
to go buy some bread?
I live in the boonies.
I think they envisioned a barn with the stone and the ox, and they were maybe even thinking I'm the ox. But anyway, so we sell this little in-home grain mill that sits on your counter. Push the button, pour the grain in, and it comes out flour. It grinds like a pound in less than 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So I tell everybody, if you're already baking, this is so easy. It is as fast as taking the flour canister out of the cabinet. If you don't know there's a room in your house called a kitchen, then you might have a little issues. But we keep it simple. The recipes are simple. I've written a book, the Essential Home Ground Flour book. And basically, once you get your flour made, which is seconds, by the time you get your ingredients on the counter, you're ready to go. There's some easy, they're called quick breads for a reason. They came very popular after the war in the 40s and 50s, and really popular in the 60s because women were going back out in the workplace. Stir up in 5 minutes and bake in 15.
Wow.
That's muffins, pancakes, coffee cake. Coffee cake maybe takes 30 minutes to bake.
Yes.
But those are so easy. They use baking powder and baking soda and salt, and my basic muffin recipe is so easy.
Which is in your book?
Yes,
Is that in your
it's
book?
in my cookbooks. Okay. We've got several cookbooks. I've got a little red, everybody knows our recipe collection that's just $6 at our store, but then this is my hardest thing I've ever done. Yes, my life's work is in that book. Nutritional information is in there, but then your step-by-step how-tos. But quick breads, muffins are my go-to. And
great.
sometimes muffins, it was, how can I make these muffins not look like this morning's muffins?
Yeah.
Because yeast bread didn't get made. Yeast bread is not difficult, and hands-on, it's really not that much time, but it does require some rising processes.
Yeah.
But we even show you how to do it in a bread machine. Takes 5 minutes to dump
that's
everything
wonderful.
in, and
Well, my friend does
push
it.
the button, and you
Yeah.
come back 3 hours later and you have a baked loaf
Well,
of
it
bread.
sounds simple enough.
It
That's
is.
really great that there's the resources out there to
Yes.
do that. And now, do you have different types of breads that you can make?
Yes, there's, I mean, you can do anything with
Your Ezekiel bread. I want to know
Yes.
about your
Oh,
Ezekiel. But
yes.
how? Okay, now wait a minute.
Okay.
There is another
Yes.
bread
Yes.
out there, which I have bought.
It's-
So how is it? Because
What's
yours
the
is milled fresh.
Yes,
Makes
and
it even better.
The commercial one that's out there readily available in the store, they do a sprouted grain flour, and I don't think that that's necessary. I have teaching on that. We grind the flour fresh, but we do use from the 4th chapter of Ezekiel. God tells Ezekiel to take wheat, spelt, barley, millet, lentils, and beans, put them into one vessel, grind them, and make a cake out of them.
Yes.
I think the one vessel is because all those grains and beans, they ate separately. They made barley bread, they made spelt bread, they made wheat bread. So he wanted them to combine them. And the combination of grains and beans there makes a complete protein. So, and if you read the scripture, Ezekiel lived more than 400 days off of it. Appears an 8-ounce cake of this bread
Wow.
and a quart
Yeah.
of water. So our bread, because we just mill it into flour without sprouting and all that, is very soft. I think I have a loaf here.
And it
I think there's
smells
Oh, and the
amazing.
raisin bread is.
Oh gosh! Yes,
gosh.
you can do anything. I'm still creating things to do with a basic bread dough, a basic muffin, a basic pancake, and a basic coffee cake. That's it. My bread dough, you can make bread out of it. It can be your pizza dough. It can be your dinner rolls. It can be your hamburger bun. That same batch of dough. You can toss some cinnamon and raisin, or roll it out and fill it up with some kind of herbs and spices.
But now, what about this? The diabetic person will say, but it has honey in it, or it has sugar in the bread. I can't eat that.
Yes.
Is there a reason why that
Yes.
is in the bread, or can you make bread without?
You certainly can. In fact, it's very popular in Europe to make, in some traditional bread recipes. Don't use sweeteners at all. They
Yes.
think that bread should be flour, water, salt.
Okay.
That's it.
And that's it.
And that's it.
No chocolate
and it's very
chips, right?
tasty. Yeah, no chocolate chips.
chips.
It's very tasty. So if you want to leave the honey out, but honey is all in the scriptures. And here's what people need to realize: when you're grinding the grain fresh, whole grains are loaded with fiber. When you eat foods that are high in fiber, they're carbohydrates that are broken down into sugars that your body needs, but the fiber causes it to be released into your body and broken down much more slowly.
Yes.
So you don't get those spikes and their
spikes.
drops. In fact, studies that I've read, they're actually stabilizing blood sugar levels with whole grains.
Yes.
It's the most important key component of getting your blood sugar levels stabilized.
And that's so interesting, because I really want to go into your ministry that you just started here recently, and it's called the Real Bread Outreach.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
how did that spiral or
I'd
something
like
about
to
it? Because
see
you only
your
have about
bag,
5.
Sue,
So
too, that-
92,
just
we
explain
started
that.
the Bread Beckers. 2005, the bakery, because we're passionate. We've seen lives change. We've seen health change. So we want to get this bread into as many hands as we can. 2007, the Lord just laid on my heart to start a ministry. The more I was going out and speaking and teaching, the more I was meeting people that literally, financially could not afford to do this. We all say we can't, but most of us can. Or physically, they're elderly, shut-ins, or children, or whatever. So I started a ministry called Real Bread Outreach to get this into this bread or grains or machines into the hands of those who either could not bake it for themselves, or if you could bake it for yourself, we'll give you a grain mill. We'll teach you how to make bread. So we're really reaching out and changing lives that way, and it's just been a real blessing to share that with other people. And of course, we're believing that as you meet people's physical needs, it opens the door to share the real bread of life, Jesus Christ. In fact, Jesus said after he fed the 5,000, he said, I tell you the truth, you're searching for me, not because of the miracles that I've done, but because you had the bread and you were satisfied. So,
That's really
Well,
neat.
show how you do this.
yeah,
Sue.
so so this is a cool thing. We're wanting to go into churches and do this. You know, we're all called to share the gospel, and in Romans it tells us to practice hospitality, which literally means to reach out to strangers. We all think that means having y'all over for dinner and partying and having fun.
Let's make some bread together.
So I always marvel at evangelists, how they can go from ordering a hamburger in a restaurant to the spiritual laws and leading this person now is praying the sinner's prayer and leading them to Christ. So all of us are not gifted that way. So what I want to do is I want to help those of us that aren't an icebreaker, give them an icebreaker. So we're calling this our Spread the Bread campaign. We want to take it into churches and just reach out and encourage people to share their bread. And so we get these gift bags. They're red for a reason, representing the blood of Christ. They're white inside, that we're whiter than snow, with but covered by the blood of Jesus. We put a loaf of bread inside, and if you're really timid and shy, I think my gospel tract got
Here you go.
taken out. Yep, I gave it to you.
Yep.
I've written this gospel tract, Are You Hungry? And it talks about the bread you hold in your hand is not like any bread you've ever eaten. It talks about that it's made with freshly milled flour and that it literally could sustain your physical life. But then it goes on to say, but man does not live by bread alone, and walks you through the gospel, leads you in a prayer, and then encourages you to join a fellowship.
God.
So, and just last week, I took a loaf of bread in my little gift bag and gave it to a lady in the parking lot, you know, and just said, you know, I just wanted to give this to you. It may open a door for someone that you've kind of wanted to reach out to, maybe in your church, but just didn't have an open door, or your neighbor that you just don't want to knock on their door and say, do you know Jesus? You know, this would help us, you know, break the ice. So I'm so excited about this campaign.
Well, we have a minute left here, and I just wanted to find out how can the viewers reach you? How can they get more information?
Yes, I would love them
And for you to speak.
Yes, go on our website. It's www.realbreadoutreach.com is our ministry's website. Of course, our store, the Bread Beckers, is in Woodstock. Our bread, you can buy it in Whole Foods, the loaves of bread. I have a phone interview when I leave here to see about actually taking over the bakery, the ministry, and so it will become a nonprofit. So every loaf bought will support what we're doing in Haiti and what we're doing locally.
We're going to go to a small break here, but it's been really, really interesting talking to you. I've enjoyed having you, and it's been fun. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Friends and Neighbors. It's been such an awesome time getting to know Sue Becker here with us, and it's been really neat to hear more about the ministry that you've been doing, especially with the paper bags, with the gift bags. I love that, and I just I also read that you went to Haiti and you guys are offering bread there.
Yes, that's exciting. In 2016, I was reading my Bible one day, and Ecclesiastes 11 verse 1 said, "Cast your bread on many waters, and after many days it will come back to you." My youngest child was about to get married, so for the first time in 37 years, I was about to not be needed as a full-time mom. Wrote in my prayer journal, what waters? 10 days later, I got an email asking me to come to Haiti. Went to Haiti in March of 2016, made 5 trips. We've raised up young men that are baking the bread. We've put a commercial oven down there. We're hoping to build a bakery,
Yeah.
2 bakeries this year. And as I speak, there's a container of grain on the water coming from the Ukraine. We got a
Oh,
great
my
price on
goodness.
it.
Wow.
And so it's just doing great things, and we're teaching people the skills, and we're hoping to set up sustainable businesses. And today, 3,000 starving children, school children, are getting fed freshly ground whole grain bread
Oh, my
every
goodness.
day.
Glory to God.
And,
Glory to
you know,
God.
and these young men are working, and
That's
they've
right.
got jobs, and they've got a future now. And so
Yes.
we're looking forward to that. And then we've got the Spread the Bread campaign, and
Oh, well-
we just want to get our bread into the hands of those who really desperately need
Well,
it.
it's
If
been
you
really
keep
neat.
me
We've got-
going like it does you, I'm going to eat it, okay?
Yes.
We
You
have
got
had
me.
such a wonderful time, and I can't believe it's already
I know.
over.
Yeah.
Y'all come back and
Yes.
join us next time. It's been a blast
Yes.
talking to Sue and here with my co-host,
And get your
Sherry.
bread and stay healthy.
That's right.
Amen.
There
Be
you go.
healthy. Amen.
Thanks for joining us.